Welcome back to the channel. This will be the best free hit team for Game Week 4. I'll be showing you multiple drafts and one with the highest expected points according to the website FPL.team. And in terms of the clean sheet odds, Liverpool are top with a 49% probability of keeping one against Burnley away. Arsenal are second, facing Nottingham Forest at home, and Crystal Palace have risen to third because early in the week they were fourth. They have swapped places with Newcastle with a 44% chance against Wolves at home, and Fulham and Chelsea have also swapped places, and Fulham have the more plum fixture on paper against Leeds at home, whilst Chelsea have that West London derby against Brentford away. But in last place, and it comes as no surprise to anybody, Burnley are bottom with an 11% chance of keeping a clean sheet, and to be honest, I think it should be even lower, despite the fact that the game will take place at Turf Moor. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below about these clean sheet odds and also your favourite captaincy choices for the game week. I'll be covering that in the deadline stream, but if you have watched my previous content, I have shown some of these graphics already. There'll be updated versions in a couple of days' time, so stay tuned for that Saturday deadline stream as we return from the international break, and keep your eyes peeled for UCL Fantasy content. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also the notification bell so you're always up to date with my videos on live streams, both FPL and UCL Fantasy, and my first draft for the Champions League has been published on the channel. Keep your eyes peeled as well for the chip strategy guide for UCL Fantasy. The same goes for more drafts, the team selection, and throughout the season there'll be best limitless and wildcard squads throughout. The same goes for FPL and the wildcard and free hit, which I'll be talking about today. It's all about Game Week 4, and then once your free hit is over, your team goes back to how it was before you activated the chip. It's not like the wildcard, which enforces permanent changes to your squad. Check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, further access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, FPL League and Spotify can also be found in the description. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. My squad value overall is 100.6 million, but in terms of spending power, it's 100.1 million, and you can use a website like FPL.team to determine what your purchase prices are and what you can spend on the 15-man squad. And that's because when you buy a player in, they only rise in selling value by 0.1 million if they go up in price by 0.2, which is something I've covered throughout the years in my FPL content. But I'm going to start off with the two goalkeepers, and with the free hit squads, you can have a very cheap bench and all these enablers to facilitate the starting 11, which is the most important. But I always recommend having one decent option on the bench if needed, and there are plenty of options at cheaper price points that can do the job in Game Week 4. And you're looking specifically at those fixtures. The likes of Fulham will definitely be appealing against Leeds at home, even Arsenal facing Nottingham Forest also at home. But the standouts would be Liverpool facing Burnley away and Crystal Palace, who are also at home against Sunderland. Despite naming all of these teams, I'm going for something a little bit different with Nick Pope, and Newcastle are fourth in the clean sheet odds, as I demonstrated at the beginning of this podcast, and he's also fourth in the goalkeeper rankings for FPL points, so I think he's a very solid option against Wolves at home. And you will see my predicted score lines in my predicted lineups podcast, and I've gone for a Newcastle victory there with a clean sheet, and I think Nick Pope can offer yet another one to his bank there because he has been very impressive in the Premier League so far this season. It was a goalless draw against Leeds United, and even against Liverpool in that high-scoring thriller, he still delivered 4 points in general. And of course, back in Game Week 1, it was another goalless draw against Aston Villa. But I think Newcastle will get their first Premier League victory of the season against Wolves, and Nick Pope will be one of the best options on the free hit, particularly in the goalkeeper position. The backup is just Dubravka. He's 4 million, he plays, but he's facing Liverpool. He might get some save points, but I think Liverpool will score enough goals to reduce that kind of tally, and he's not going to give you any spectacular returns, but he's just there on your bench if needed, and you can just go for any 4 million goalkeeper at this point because Nick Pope should start between the sticks for Newcastle United. I don't see Aaron Ramsdale taking the mantle anytime soon. Hopefully I haven't jinxed it by this point. If you want another goalkeeper, I think Alisson would be very solid against Burnley away, but you also deprive yourself of the opportunity to triple up on that Liverpool attack or have the likes of Virgil van Dijk at the heart of that defence. And of course, they are top of the clean sheet odds this week. Even Dean Henderson is decent, but I'd rather cover Palace defensively with the likes of Munoz, Lacroix, and even someone like Mitchell, who is very underrated. And you've also got David Raya facing Nottingham Forest at home. Those are the best goalkeepers for Game Week 4, but I would go for Nick Pope at this moment in time. And with the backup, it could be absolutely anybody, but Dubravka plays, and that's the reason why he's in here. Let's now go on to the defenders, where things get even more interesting, and it's all about how you want to balance things out. Do you want to double up defensively in one of Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Arsenal, or Liverpool, or do you spread things out and have a very balanced team overall? Over a 38-game season, Gabriel won't score many defensive contribution points, to be honest, especially in fixtures where Arsenal are expected to dominate, but I think against Forest he can give you a standard 6-pointer, and whenever he gets those bullet headers and combines that with a clean sheet, you are looking at massive returns from Gabriel Magalhaes, who will also get bonus points in that sort of situation. And I think Saliba will be better in terms of defensive contributions over the course of the season, and Mosquera should come in to replace the injured Saliba for Game Week 4, but as I covered in my updated Transfers podcast, we could see the Frenchman return by Game Week 5, so maybe he's not worth selling at this moment in time. Calafiori has been the outstanding Arsenal player in general, but particularly in that defensive line. His injury record, though, is a major cause for concern. On a free hit, that shouldn't be a huge concern, to be fair, so maybe you can go for that sort of Calafiori or Timber punt, and we saw the Dutchman score a brace and get an assist against Leeds United back in Game Week 2, and of course the Italian got 2 assists on that particular occasion. So you can go for any of these Arsenal defenders and still get a very solid return in the process. Gabriel is a little bit more expensive at 6.1 million, so I wouldn't be completely against a Calafiori or Timber pick in Game Week 4, but it's also worth mentioning that Ben White could be available this weekend after missing several games due to injury, but he should be on the bench and Timber should start once more for the Gunners, but Gabriel will be a very safe pair of hands in that central defence, and he could also get that bullet header. He's got the best chance of any of those Arsenal defenders, but you could also argue he has been marked out of the game on several occasions, so that could be something to monitor. But I still think Gabriel, with the way he jumps and the kind of height he can reach, he just causes so much discomfort to opposition defenders, and eventually he will get a few Premier League goals. He is, of course, the highest scoring defender in the Premier League since he joined Arsenal back in 2020. But the second defender will be a Frenchman, not William Saliba, of course, this time round, but Lacroix is quite similar in profile, and he's been very impressive so far this season. There is this big debate about FPL right now and the way defensive contributions and bonus points can work. So, for example, Pedro Porro on the Saturday made 9 defensive actions, and that was the original kind of tally, but with the Opta stats, that was rectified because the final game, of course, was on Sunday night, but that was actually against the Crystal Palace defenders like Lacroix and those that had the Frenchman, because Pedro Porro was able to get the rectified defensive actions, so he had 10 in general and scored 2 additional points for defensive contributions, yet Lacroix, who was also on 9 originally, wasn't able to have that rectified because that was the last game of the match day. So in the end, Lacroix should have gotten 10 defensive actions and scored 2 additional points for DEFCON, but that wasn't the case because his game was the very last one. Maybe that wasn't the best explanation, but hopefully that is quite clear to those that are watching. Ultimately, Lacroix will give you defensive contribution points in most matches this season. We saw him get a significant number in the last campaign, which I also covered in my key changes to FPL video, but I think it's worth doubling up on that Crystal Palace defence. And whilst originally, if Ismaila Sarr was fit, I would have recommended Munoz in this defensive line, Sarr in the midfield, and Mateta up front. I would go about things a little bit differently now because I'm not as convinced about those Palace midfielders, especially with Eze leaving the club and also Ismaila Sarr being injured. So I'd prioritise that Palace defence right now and go for a double up with Daniel Munoz, who is such an exciting pick. He hasn't blanked so far this season. He got an assist against Forest in that 1-1 draw. He can also score from open play, get the clean sheets, and also from time to time defensive contributions, but not to the same level and consistency as his teammate Lacroix. And you've also got Mark Gay, who scored a brilliant goal against Aston Villa, and he has stayed with the club, of course, maybe not by choice, but of course he is going to be with Crystal Palace from Game Week 4 onwards. And Tyrick Mitchell and Chris Richards are decent options as well. But the next choice will be a 4.5 million option who is a facilitator. Yeah, he could start in this free hit team in Joachim Andersen facing Leeds at home. He's another one who can get defensive contribution points quite regularly for this price point, and Fulham could keep a clean sheet against Leeds United. They are also ranked quite highly in the clean sheet odds, in 5th place over the likes of Chelsea. But the final player is from Fulham, and he's just there as a 4 million option on the bench in Goodmanson, assuming he is available. But this could be Renilo Mandava from Sunderland, and ultimately he would be on your bench, as I'll show you very soon, using the website FPL.team to discuss the captaincy and the starting 11. But let's now move on to the midfielders, and things will get even more spicy in this position. When I've mentioned this Salah stat, it has surprised several viewers. He only has 1 goal and 2 assists across 10 matches against Burnley, which is incredible actually. The last time Burnley won the Premier League a few years ago, I captained Salah at Turf Moor and he blanked, and it was Diogo Jota who scored the winning goal. So I think with Salah, he can be a bit disappointing in these sort of fixtures, but ultimately it's the best FPL asset of all time. He had an incredible campaign last time out, and despite an underwhelming start, he's still got goal contributions in 2 of the 3 matches so far, and Burnley are there for the taking. I think Liverpool could score multiple goals in this game, and that's why I'm tripling up on their attack, and that includes Cody Gakpo, who's the most informed Liverpool attacker since pre-season. I know Ekitike's come in and done a brilliant job. I think those 2 would be the informed ones, so to speak, and I wouldn't discount Florian Wirtz just yet, but I would rank Gakpo and Salah significantly higher at this moment in time. So this speaks for itself. I know some of you might question the lack of Liverpool defenders or Alisson in goal. I completely get that, and I will show you different drafts which covers all these different structures, and it can maybe suit your personal preferences as well. But the third midfielder will be quite interesting. He hasn't been great so far this season, but got his first goal contribution against Brighton, and that's Marmoush, who's ranked very highly according to these websites like FPL.team with 6 expected points, which is very high, especially for this sort of midfielder at 8.4 million. But he played very poorly against Tottenham Hotspur and missed a big chance created by Erling Haaland back in Gameweek 2. And ultimately, the Man City attacker you really want is the Norwegian robot up front. But I think Marmoush is still a decent replacement in the midfield, and it gives you enough squad depth to have a very stacked midfield and forward line. But let's complete this position with 2 other options, and this might surprise you, and he hasn't been good so far this season either, but I'm backing Mitoma to improve after the international break, and he got his first goal contribution in the same fixture as Marmoush in that 2-1 win for Brighton and Hove Albion, and he's got 4 goals in 5 matches against Bournemouth. So I think Brighton could get yet another victory at the Vitality Stadium. They've got a brilliant record against the Cherries, and Mitoma is a key reason why, and I would recommend him at 6.4 million, even though Kudus might be the appealing pick. He's very template, and he's facing his former club in West Ham United. But the 5th and final midfielder is going to be another enabler who could also start in this free hit team, and that's Josh King, a 4-point family midfielder who was very unlucky not to score his first Premier League goal in that local derby against Chelsea, but of course that was discussed already. We don't need to talk about that again, but I think Josh King has so much potential at 18 years of age, and he's also a very exciting pick facing Leeds at home in Gameweek 4. Whilst Fulham have signed a few players towards the end of the transfer window, those are mainly in the winger positions, and I think King will continue to start, but there is competition from the likes of Smith Rowe, which could cause problems in the long term. But for a Gameweek 4 free hit, he's a perfect enabler at 4.5 million, and if needed, he could come in and do a solid job. Victor Gyökeres is clinical. With only 2 shots on target this season, he has scored 2 goals, but Arsenal need to create more chances, especially from open play, and give him the service that he deserves, because he is one of the most lethal forwards in Europe. He might not be the best on the ball, and I think there are limitations to his game, but what he is a poacher. You give him chances, he's going to score goals, and against Forest, who just lost 3-0 against West Ham, I think Gyökeres could be an underrated option in the forward line. So he does make it into this 50-man squad, and it would mean a double up in the Arsenal team. I wouldn't triple up against Forest, but that is still a viable strategy. If Bukayo Saka was fit, he would have been one of my top recommendations in the midfield. He has a great record against Forest, particularly at the Emirates, but that's something to look at for Gameweek 5 or 6, because Saka, just like Saliba, could be available in the coming weeks, and that'll be a massive boost for the Gunners. But the second forward is Ekitike, and that means a triple up in that Liverpool attack, so it's something a little bit different on the free hit. And whilst Van Dijk or Alisson can give you 6 points as a almost guarantee, you can get far more points from an Ekitike, Salah or Gakpo, and having 3 of them at the same time is a massive differential play on the free hit, and I would recommend that to most viewers. But the final forward is from Crystal Palace, and it won't surprise you whatsoever to see Jean-Philippe Mateta in this starting 11 and to complete this 50-man squad. There are notable absentees, of course, like Joao Pedro facing Brentford away, and he will be discussed very soon, don't you worry. Even Jarrod Bowen facing Tottenham could be a great choice, and he was very impressive against Nottingham Forest and almost scored an incredible solo goal, and that was very unlucky not to have gone in as well. But you've got plenty of options to choose from in this forward line. Erling Haaland is the biggest absentee for me, and I will show you a draft with both Salah and Haaland simultaneously, and there is certainly a debate to be made that Haaland is better than Salah this week, considering the Egyptians' record against Burnley. But let's discuss the starting 11 of this 15-man squad first, and remember, there will be different structures later on in this video to satisfy your needs and also your preferences, because everyone has a different opinion in FPL. There is no contest between the sticks. I would go for Nick Pope against Wolves at home, and Dubravka would clearly sit on the bench. A back three of Gabriel, Lacroix and Munoz is very solid. The same goes for Salah as your captain, Gakpo, Marmoush and Matoma in the midfield. And up front there's Gyökeres, Ekitike and Mateta. And a correction to what I said earlier, with Joachim Andersen, I know some people might be able to afford that, but I think for most people you would have to compensate with 2 4 million defenders in Reinildo Mandava and Gudmundsson, and both of them would sit on your bench. You've got King as the first sub facing Leeds at home, but I think a 4.5 million defender that can do really well this week is Joachim Andersen, and that will be discussed with other drafts as well. That includes this one, which has Erling Haaland and Salah simultaneously, and Nick Pope is still the goalkeeper with Van Dijk in central defence. The same goes for Gabriel, Lacroix and Munoz. So this forms a back 4 this time round. Salah, Gakpo, Matoma and King in the midfield. Now, if you want to, you could start Dewsbury Hall or Joachim Andersen instead. But up front, you've got Erling Haaland and Jean-Philippe Mateta. And honestly, I wouldn't be completely against captaining Erling Haaland this week. The expected points does go down though to 65.7 according to FPL.team. Dubravka and Krupi Jr. complete this bench, but ultimately they are facilitators and enablers. They could be ignored. Let me know if you prefer this structure with Haaland and Salah instead. And you've also got that Liverpool defender in Virgil van Dijk, who can get defensive contributions, but I think it's more likely you'll get a clean sheet from Liverpool and they should dominate the game, so the DEFCON might not be as likely for Van Dijk in such a fixture. But the third team I want to show you has Alisson Becker in goal, with Livramento, Munoz and Gabriel in the defensive line, Salah as the captain, Wirtz, Marmoush and Kudus. So you've got 2 midfielders here in Wirtz and Kudus who have been underwhelming, especially when it comes to goals, but you've got the creativity side of it, and Wirtz scored over the international break against Northern Ireland and played fairly well against Arsenal, and also was crucial in a disallowed goal against the Gunners. And as for Kudus, he's got the creativity and the minutes. You might want to go for Xavi Simons for his Premier League debut against West Ham, but I think Kudus will have something to prove against his former club. And the front line includes new signing Waldemade, Watkins and Jean-Philippe Mateta, with a bench comprising of Dubravka, King, Reinildo Mandava and Gudmundsson. So what you see here are different drafts and different ideas for you, and honing in on the pool of players in every single position, so you're well prepared for Game Week 4 and have the best structure possible for a great free hit. Now, the final team isn't actually mine, it's just using FPL.team and what they recommend as the best free hit in terms of expected points. And as you can see, 72.8 trumps everything else that I've talked about today, but it doesn't always necessarily translate into actual points. David Raya in goal is their recommended goalkeeper, with Lacroix, Munoz and Tarkowski for the defensive contributions against Aston Villa. Salah as the captain, Bruno Guimaraes, Marmoush and Eze, who has a good record against Nottingham Forest. Then Bowen, Gyökeres and Jean-Philippe Mateta. And on the bench there's Dubravka, King, Anderson and Gudmundsson as well. You could even go for cheaper options there and find 1 or 2 upgrades in the starting 11, but there's 0.4 million left in the bank for me personally, and for some people it might be 0.5 or even more, and everyone watching should be able to afford what FPL.team deemed to be the best free hit team. But just for clarity, I would recommend one of these 2 teams. So this one only has Salah and a triple up in the Liverpool attack, and there are 2 4 million defenders on the bench there to compensate for the funds invested in the starting 11. And then there's this draft with Erling Haaland and Salah simultaneously. You could even build a free hit team with Haaland and no Salah, and going for 2 Liverpool attackers in Ekitike and Gakpo, or maybe having Florian Wirtz as your Salah replacement, for example. And that would also allow you to have a third Liverpool player in the defensive line like Virgil van Dijk. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Which one of these teams is your favourite, and will you go for Erling Haaland and Salah, or only pick one of them over the next couple of weeks? Before the season even started, I made an in-depth chip strategy guide discussing the best time to use every single booster. That includes the free hit, triple captain, wildcard, and bench boost, and I believe Game Week 4 is a great opportunity to use the free hit, and for some people it'll be the best course of action. By watching this video, you'll be in a great position to have a successful free hit, and you can hone in on the best players in every single position and target those plum fixtures for the likes of Crystal Palace and Liverpool. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content for both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Stay tuned for more videos throughout the international break, and we're going to close in on 36,000 subscribers after hitting several milestones in the last couple of weeks. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the Championships. If you want to support the channel even further and gain early access to my videos, amongst many other perks, there's my Discord server, the FPL League, and Spotify in the description as well. I'll see you on Saturday for the next deadline stream, and keep your eyes peeled for UCL Fantasy content.